What up, homies? All right, so you just watched a presentation not too long ago about how to format your ebook. The next step is going to be to name your chapters. So it looks to me like I am ready to do that. I started off by taking that sample ebook and making a copy and then reformatting it and retitling it so that it is about my topic, child labor. So I started off with the ebook title, Child Labor, written by Sarah Whitman, and I changed the picture of the original ebook so that it has to do something with child labor. Now I'm going to go to my table of contents, and to keep things consistent, I'm going to change my background to yellow, and then I'm going to think about naming my chapters. Now, the first one I know is really easy. Instead of saying what is animal abandonment, I'm just going to call it what is child labor. So your first chapter will be what is, followed by the thing you researched. What does LGBTQ mean? What is sexual harassment? What is homelessness? Whatever it is you chose. The last chapter is going to be something either like what can I do to help, or what do I do next, or how do I learn more, something like that. So I'm going to say what do I do now is what I'm going to call it for me. So you want to call it something like that. Then you're going to have two chapters in, or sorry, one chapter in the middle. So you're going to have a total of three chapters. This student had more than that. You guys are going to have three. So the second chapter in the middle is going to be about the activist you learned about. So in your research, you would have read about at least one teenager or young person who's doing something to help combat the issue you researched. So maybe a student who's helping to fight against child labor, or a student who's fighting against sexual harassment, or a student who's promoting the rights of the LGBTQ community. So for me, maybe there's a student that I want to write about. So I found an article about a student who's helping to fight against child labor, and the article's from the New York Times, and the student's name is Craig Kielburger. So I'm going to grab his name here, and I'm going to come into my chapter, and I'm going to call chapter 2 Meet Craig. Oh gosh, I got to fix the formatting of that. So I don't want it to look like that. So I'm going to say meet, and then I'm going to do edit, and then paste without formatting. There we go. Meet Craig Kielburger. So now I have chapter 1, chapter 2, and oops, chapter 3. Okay, so that's how your chapter should be titled. The only thing you might do is you might choose to have a fourth chapter. Now, if you do that, it would go somewhere in the middle. Your first and your last chapter should definitely be what is and what do I do now. But in the middle, maybe you decide that it would be helpful to include some information on the history of child labor. If you want to do that, you're welcome to do that. So I would probably put it right after I talked about what child labor is. So I would change these to 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'd say, what is, or maybe just call it a history of child labor. And I could include some data and statistics on that. So, whoopsies, I got to change that to chapter 4. So that is an option too. So your minimum requirement is you have to have 3 chapters. And if you have just 3, then they'll look just like that, except it'll say 1, 2, 3. If you have a fourth and you think it's necessary to add some other information that you think deserves its own chapter, then you can add it in here. And I will give you some feedback on whether your chapter order makes sense and if there's anything you need to think about. Okay, so that's what you need to do. When I look at your newly formatted ebooks, I should see that you have your chapter titles entered in so I can give you some feedback on them. All right, thanks a lot. I will look forward to seeing your work.